What are some dark psychology tricks that actually work? Story 1. Certified hypnotist here. You want a dark, here you go. Leading a topic by stating something you know the subject will agree with. Transition to a restatement or whatever it is they agreed with and alter it slightly. End with a rhetorical question leaning towards agreement. Isn't that right? If you're slow and careful about this, you can get people to concede or agree to nearly anything without even noticing. Number 2. This one is incredibly simple. Consistently thanking someone for very, very basic things. Things you might not even thank someone for. Think moving out of the way for you or handing you your water bottle from a few feet away. Once you make the interaction consistent enough, they will be used enough to the praise that you will be missed. Then, don't thank them for one or two things, and they will very frequently go out of their way in order to earn your thanks. Story 2. Silence. If you want to know something, ask the question, then wait. People want to fill the silence and will talk and talk. This works so well. You don't even have to want to know something. If you're just too lazy, /tired, /bored, /uninterested to take part, you can just make the other person do all the work by remaining quiet. I like to nod knowingly now and then while I'm thinking about something else. Story 3. If someone doesn't want to give you specific information, like tuition costs or hours expected, give them an example that's completely unreasonable. They will usually immediately give you the exact number and feel embarrassed for pretending not to know. Example, me. How much does your C++ course cost? Them. It really depends on what your goals are. Me. Don't you have a beginner's course? Can you give me a price range? Them. We can work with you to fit your individual needs. Me. Okay, fine. So is it like $10 for access to your courses or them? Oh no, we have a subscription for $99 a month. You can buy beginner's courses for $120. Not useful very often, but it works every time. Story 4. One thing that my dad does that he may be completely unaware of is when you give him good news, he always exaggerates it back to you, thus forcing you to downplay your own accomplishment. I honestly don't think he's consciously doing it, but it drives me absolutely crazy. Hey, I have amazing news. I got promoted to vice president. That's great. Wow. So senior vice president? No, just vice president. Oh, well, that's still good. And now the wind is all out of my sails. When I was a kid, I'd try to tell my mom something I was excited or passionate about, and all that I would get would be, I wish you were this passionate about school. I hated it every time. Story 5. Not really a dark trick, but one that I found effective. If someone's being rude to you, stay completely silent and stare at them. Make them feel incredibly uncomfortable, and they'll usually act civilly after a few moments. Edit. Disclaimer. Do not do this to people who are exhibiting aggressive behavior, or while it's unsafe, non-public environment. This will not work on the local thug in the street and will likely cause you harm. This is a tactic meant to be used on otherwise mature adults in safe environments. Story 6. If you want to be an effective liar, build up a reputation of being honest. The more you are known as being reliable, the easier it is to deceive and manipulate. Not terribly complex, I know. Story 7. People start to believe something if they're told it over and over and over, even if it goes against everything they know. That's why the news is so important to pretty much every government on Earth. They get to decide what we hear over and over. Story 8. Don't react when somebody is getting unnecessarily angry. Drives them crazy. I like to call it turning off my face. Just give them a dead, completely neutral stare and stay silent. Whenever they refer to what's actually bothering them, I give a slight nod in confirmation that their concern is valid, but otherwise I just become a statue. Eventually they stop talking, or they get so riled up they go off on a completely unrelated tangent. If they stop talking, I can calmly jump in with, so what I'm understanding is, and then repeat their concern. If they go off on a tangent, I interrupt them with, we're getting off on a tangent. Your concern was blank. Let's talk about that. If they interrupt me, I'll interrupt them right back with, no, you just spoke for 15 minutes. It's my turn. That last part, it's my turn, always gets them to pause and they become strangely compliant. It's something we're conditioned to respond to as kids, and it still works when you're 40. Story 9. The wording of the questions often influences the answer. For example, to the question, how fast were you going when they crashed? People give, on average, an estimated speed that is faster than what the question is formulated as. How fast were the cars going when they collided? Story 10. My boss likes having meetings after 5 p.m. even though I technically can be there for it. I don't want to, so I tell him I have an important class I'm going to at exactly 5:54. Show up for about 5 to 10 minutes of the meeting, then leave. Thinks I'm an amazing team player for going out of my way to hop in for just a few minutes, when in reality I have no class to attend and I hate those meetings. Story 11. Not so dark, but humans have predictable patterns when choosing stuff at random. If you ask 100 people to pick a number 1 through 10, a great deal of those people choose 3 or 7. Even numbers, high/lowest, 1 and 10, and the middle number, 5, doesn't feel random enough. So when I play board games like Caton or card games where the others have to pick a random number out of my hand, I always put my most valuable cards on either side, not in the middle since the middle feels more random. Story 12. Mirroring is incredible. You can pull it off from a simple swinging on a chair or a gentle smile. You can actually control their presence. I did some anti-mirroring to a salesman at my door once. I leaned against my door frame. He leaned against my porch post. As soon as he did, I stood up straight. He stood up straight. I leaned against my door frame again. Rinse and repeat for about a minute. He lost his train of thought, got nervous, and said he had to go. It was kind of funny. Story 13. Sunk cost. Basically, any time or effort or money that has already been expended or spent tends to be factored into decision making even though it shouldn't. When I met my wife, she would always finish her drinks even if she didn't like them because she paid for them. I asked her, if you already paid for them, then the money is already gone. Why suffer through a drink you don't like if there is literally no change in outcome as opposed to not drinking it, except not enjoying it? This is why buying a car takes so long. You have spent so much time already that you almost feel like you have to buy it. You have invested time and need to get something for that investment. Oh my gosh, I don't want to go through this again. Story 14. Waiting several seconds or up to a minute to say something after someone has given you an offer or asked you for something will make what you say next high likely to be agreed with. Most people hate uncomfortable silence, especially salespeople. Story 15. People want to be acknowledged, accepted, and appreciated. It takes almost nothing to give them that, but empires have risen and fell because of it. People will be so happy that you've given it, even if they know they're being manipulated. They'll ignore the manipulation for the sake of what you're giving them. Story 16. It depends on what you hand them. Working retail, I've learned that if you hand someone something while they're talking, they will take it, put it in their pocket, purse, etc., and then have no recollection of you ever giving them something. It has worked on every person I have tried it with. Edit, lol, no, I didn't make anyone shoplift. It was usually their receipts, pens, or the credit card slips, etc. Then after them talking, they'll ask for it and I'll tell them they pocketed it. But I learned this is a real psychological trick and also to wait until they're done talking to hand them something. Story 17. If you want someone to like you, ask them to do small favors for you and be very appreciative when they comply. Positive reinforcements for your tasks, just like training a dog. Even better if you actually give them treats like a dog. Food is a very primary reinforcer after all. Story 18. Whenever I want to help someone with something, but I know their pride gets in the way or they don't want to impose, I ask them for a favor first, even if I don't really need it. Examples would be like asking a peer how they arrived at a solution for XYZ, and then replaying the favor by going, you want to see something really cool I learned recently? And showing them how to do something more efficiently/correctly. Or when you know your parents' heater is broken but they insist on calling a repairman instead of troubling you, and suddenly you need to borrow sugar while you're over there, might as well check out that heater. People like to feel helpful and like to give unsolicited advice. It works out. Story 19. I used to work at a chain bookstore and part of the job was getting all the books people took off the shelves, took to another part of the store to flip through, and then left, and putting them back in their proper spot. That was a lot of work and I didn't want to do. I would get a pile, go talk to a coworker, kept eye contact but held out the pile of books to them while talking. Whoever I was talking to took the pile every time. I'd walk away before they noticed they had them. Story 20. Being over-the-top friendly usually counteracts aggressive behavior. I used to have this customer who was always super rude and verbally aggressive on the phone. I started being extremely friendly to her the second I picked up the phone. She just did not have the chance to be rude to me. It doesn't work with everyone though. The smarter they are, the faster they're on to you. But it's usually the dumbest people who are the most aggressive to customer support anyways. Another tip. Always be friendly to customer support. I did support for a long time. Guess which customers got the fastest help? Or got helped with problems that technically were their own to solve, but I helped them anyways, or at the very least, sent them in the right direction, or sent them a link to the correct page in the online manual. Guess which customers paid for every single second they were on the phone, plus the time it took for me to register that time. And which ones I don't even bill if it was just a 5-minute phone call. Friendliness pays off in a lot of ways, short-term and long-term, even if you're faking it most of the time. Story 21. If someone is bothering you at your desk too often, continue the conversation but get up and walk them back to their desk. Had a boss who was a guru at this. You'd be back at your desk wondering how the you got there. Story 22. If you want to extract agreement from someone you know reasonably, we'll begin the conversation by talking about occasions in the past when you have cooperated to achieve a common goal. 1 or 2 examples is enough. This primes them to go along with your current proposal. Story 23. The power of suggestion is incredibly potent. Most people underestimate how this tool can affect others. For example, I had a sociology class in high school. It was that or health. And we had to build, conduct an psychological/sociological experiment and write a report on our findings. We were in groups of 4. We had free reign to do what we wanted, but it could not be immoral or unethical. But being the group of antisocial rebellious teens, we decided to do an experiment on suggestion. It was relatively simple. We picked 3 subjects and chose a positive and negative suggestion, and the third was our control. Now we picked 3 people, 1 popular, 1 not so popular, and someone in the middle, control. These subjects were picked so each one of the group members would have an interaction every class period for 1 whole day. For the popular girl, subject A, we decided to simply ask her if she was feeling alright, but she looked pale. Unpopular male, subject B, we asked why they didn't speak up more in class and that they should do it. We chose suggestions that would be counter to their personalities. Control, subject C, we simply asked how their day was going. By the end of the day experiment, subject A had gone homesick after 3 class periods. Subject B had an overall increase in participation that lasted several days after the conclusion of the experiment, and subject C showed baseline behavior. Now, we did get in trouble because what we did was unethical, but the teacher was so impressed with our report that he let us slide and made us apologize to the participants. Story 24. Asking someone to do you a favor makes them like you more. Seems wrong on the surface, but shown to be true. So, ask your boss for small personal favors every now and again. Also, if you want someone who has no opinion of you to think well of you, you can try this psychotic move. Act rude towards them. Not overly, just some small transgression. Seek them out the next day and apologize for your behavior, stating that you had a bad day and later regretted whatever you did. Now that they know you, wave hi when you see them. They will end up with a positive opinion of you. Story 25. I was a gymnast in college. When the younger hotshots were warming up for competition, just before warm-ups end and it all gets real, one of us would say, "Wow, that's a great trick." One question. When you're doing that insane maneuver on the apparatus, when do you breathe? Screws them up every time. Story 26. People love talking about themselves. Ask questions about their personal lives. Act interested in everything they say. I've carried on entire working relationships with people who couldn't tell you anything about me beyond my physical appearance, or incorrectly assumed that I had their exact same interests and opinions. After you get to that point, they're not really sharing information with as strangers so much as with a psychological extension of themselves. Story 27. A competitive environment, if you notice that your opponent is a beginner or showing signs of anxiety, ask them, "Are you nervous?" while trying to act as nonchalant as possible. I'll even yawn if I can. This always gets in people's heads at Street Fighter if they aren't mentally strong to begin with. Story 28. The easiest way to tell a lie is to let the person you're lying to come to their own conclusion of the lie, and then agree with that conclusion. Another thing you could do to easily decrease the chance of you getting caught in a lie is just not to lie, so that when you do lie, it's presumed to be a truth. Story 29. I learned this from my psychologist in order to defend myself from a toxic/manipulative relationship I was in, but at that moment, I had no possibility of leaving, because of economical, social issues I had at the time. My boyfriend was really manipulative, and in order to pressure me out of not breaking our relationship, he consistently said things like, "Everyone says we are a great couple," or "Our friends see us and they say you seem happy." In that occasions, I started asking him, "Who said that? Can you name them?" Or "What exactly did they say? Can you quote?" When the answer was obviously no, I played the reverse card, assuming things incorrectly like he did, and went, "Was it Jessica? Seems like the only one who says things like that. Let me ask her." Or, "I will text my friend group now, asking who said you are a perfect couple to you." That usually freaked him out, and I guarantee you it is very funny to see a narcissist lose their shit. Story 30. Having a heated argument. Ask the other person if they are okay because they're breathing really hard. They will stop arguing and try to pay attention to their breathing, resulting in the end of that discussion. Story 31. Self-deprecating humor will win over people. You can't go too far, it can be depressing. But if you show you don't have a huge ego and can take a joke, people will be more prone to like you. Story 32. Okay, anything cool. But this reminds me of a prank my coworker used to do where they just randomly stop someone and go, "You know, I don't care what blank says about you. I like you," and then walk away. I knew it was a prank, but some people would get paranoid/anxious and start drama. It's a pretty good way to learn who's willing to start with people based off of rumors. Story 33. Not necessarily dark, but the illusion of choice is a helpful trick we learned in sales. If you ask someone, "When can we come for X?" more likely to say they're not available than if you ask, "Oh, what time works better for us to do X?" morning or evening. Works well in other places too, because it gives the person on the other end a feeling of autonomy, while at the same time you're getting what you want. Story 34. I worked for a retail company that taught me how to say no to customers without ever using the word no. It's incredibly effective. Replacing "no, we can't do that" with something like "as it turns out, our policy is XYZ." People are more inclined to accept the hard truth that they can't have what they're asking for, whether it be reasonable or not. This works in my personal life too and has significantly reduced the amount of "well, why nots" I get from people. Story 35. If you're going on a second or third date, try to do something scary like a haunted house or thrill-seeking like a roller coaster or climbing activity or something. Date will confuse nerves and excitement with attraction to you. Bonus points if you're not scared or comfort them through it, they'll be more attracted to you. Story 36. One time I was volunteering at a shelter and this guy was creeping on me and wouldn't leave me alone. My female co-volunteer and I kept telling him to go away and that he was making us uncomfortable. I finally just smiled and said, "Bye," and waved. He finally walked away. So if someone is talking to you and you really don't want them to talk, I guess instead of giving out commands, just say cordially and confidently "bye" or "have a nice day," like you're assuming that they're leaving and they'll likely be compelled to walk away. It's worked on bullies in the past too. Story 37. Mimicking emotions is a big one. If you're able to recreate emotions, you can control others' reactions to you. Happiness is a big one. If you can mimic that, you can make anyone believe you're happy, but the reality is you aren't.